Hello, everybody, and welcome to Chapter Select, a seasonal retrospective podcast where we bounce back and forth between a series exploring its evolution, design, and legacy. For this season, we are covering the Metroid Prime franchise. My name is Max Roberts, and I am joined, as always, by Logan Moore. Hi, Logan.
Did the term Echo Fighter stem from this game? Is that where they got that for Smash? Does it come from Metroid Prime 2?
I think Dark Samus was one of the original Echo Fighters, so possibly.
Yeah. I mean, Echo Fighters are Dark Samus, Dark Pit, Daisy. I feel like a Fire Emblem character is probably thrown in there somewhere, like Lucina.
No, I think all Fire Emblem characters are OG. You've got Richter and Trevor.
Richter and Simon.
Richter, Simon.
Kind of.
Yeah, one of them is an Echo. I think Richter.
But I do wonder if when they came up with that term, if they're like, what should we call these? And they're like, Metroid Prime 2, let's do that.
Yeah, Sakurai's favorite Metroid Prime game.
Apparently.
It is, this is a game. This is a game for sure.
Yes.
We kind of had this, we're having this stretch in the middle of this season. Federation Force Echoes. I'm curious how Hunters holds up.
We're very eager, obviously, to dive in and talk about this.
Been waiting because to talk about this.
You and I have been playing this one for, to peel the curtain back a little bit, months on and off. You started it before me. I came in and started it late. It has led to us playing this over a span of a couple months here, on and off.
And I've just been silent to you.
We have not said anything to one another until kind of the past day. We've started indicating how we feel about this game to one another. So I'm very eager to talk about this.
When you said you were on your way to the final boss, I said, don't die. That was all I said.
You should have said, don't run out of time, is what you should have said.
I didn't want you to know there was a timer.
We'll talk about that. Okay, let's dive into this because I'm already chomping at the bit to discuss it. Metroid Prime 2 Echoes. Very good title for a game. I do like it.
It's Dark
clean.
Echoes in Japan, which I kind of think is cooler.
It's clean. It's got a good box art, too. I like it. Developed by Retro Studios. Released originally on the Nintendo GameCube. Was remastered or reworked or whatever you want to call it for the Nintendo Wii later as part of the Metroid Prime Trilogy collection. It came out on GameCube on November 15th, 2004. It was developed by Mark Pacini. The producers were Bryan Walker, Kenji Miki, and Kensuke Tanabe. And then the music was done by Kenji Yamamoto. On Metacritic, the game has a staggering 92 out of 100 aggregate score, which not too surprising. I mean, all the Metroid Prime games score very high. They're critical darlings.
I was slightly surprised, but I think my favorite pull quote on Metacritic, Game Informer, 95 out of 100. Rest in peace, Game Informer. I think last time we recorded, Game Informer still was living.
They still existed.
The quote there, I don't know who wrote this, but it says, I doubt Echoes will bring too many new players into the Metroid fold, but if you're an addict like myself, you enjoy each and every frustrating minute. And I was like, that actually is a pretty good sentence.
Yeah, that's kind of, I agree with the frustrating part of that. First off, I did want to say this again. If you're listening to this whole season, you surely know this. But Metroid Prime 1 had a 97 out of 100 aggregate score.
Okay, that sounds...
The remaster had a 94.
Okay.
So the critics do assert that this one is lesser. I think it's considerably lesser, though, is what I will say. I think the original Metroid Prime is far, far better in just about every aspect. I don't think this game is horrible, but yeah, that word frustrating. This is a hugely frustrating game in so many ways.
It's very old school in some of its design, if you really think about it.
Yes, it is.
Old school in a 2004 sense, not in a 2024 sense. I guess almost happy 20th birthday to Metroid Prime 2.
Yeah. Yeah, we're coming up
in
on
a few
here.
weeks.
Yeah, at the time we're recording this. Where are you at? Do you like that? Because you're the Metroid guy, so I guess I've always been under the assumption that you love all of them equally, being they're all your
Well,
children, but you might
you
have
can't love all your children the same.
you might have certain favorites that you love a little bit more. But
yeah. So Metroid Prime 2 Echoes, my very first experience with the game was actually the demo disc included in like later prints of Metroid Prime. Obviously closer to the 2004-ish time. I don't even remember what's on. I should have replayed the demo disc just to see kind of which area of the game it was. I forget, but that was my experience.
I mean, would
And
it just
then,
allow you to play the opening? I would imagine.
maybe it could have been an E3 demo of a certain section. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't remember. But then later on, well past 2004, at some point, I was in Michigan visiting my grandmother and her boyfriend. We were at a GameStop for some reason. It was like, you can get a game. I'll buy you a game or whatever. And I chose Metroid Prime 2 Echoes in its very shiny holographic box, thinking this was the logical thing to get. It was very cool. I think it was $17.
Like I said, very sleek artwork, very good looking.
It's like
box
shiny. Art. You can't really
Yeah.
scan it well. It's tough to scan super well. And I liked the game. I played it. I think I got maybe 4 or 5 hours into it at whatever age this was at. I mean, let's say it was 2006 for fun of it. I was 10. I probably played a few hours of the multiplayer with my brother and some friends. But I remember the game just being hard. And going back and forth between the light and the dark world and feeling lost. And that's probably why I dropped off. So I never really got past probably Aegon Waste, like truly. I don't remember the bog. Maybe got to the bog. I don't know. 4 or 5 hours, I could probably pull up my save. And that's it. Like that's my memory of the game up until now.
So you've never beaten this?
No,
ever,
no.
until here.
Yeah. This is my first time beating this one. And I would later go on, I think Hunters would have been my next one. And I did beat that one, 100% of that. So, yeah, this game just it was hard to a kid. As hard as an adult.
I was going to say, I think it's hard as an adult. And actually, so I was reading through some of the blurbs here from Metacritic as well, from outlets that reviewed it back in the day. And here's a good one from GameSpy. I love this opening sentence. If Retro's excellent 2002 Metroid Prime annoyed, frustrated, or simply didn't appeal to you, stop reading now. Because the new sequel featuring Nintendo's legendary bounty hunter is hitting the streets, and it's more of the same, a lot more. Basically just goes on to say, like, it's drastically more difficult, way more challenging, a lot more backtracking, a lot more like anything that may have bothered you about the previous game is kicked up to 11. I think that's my issue with it, is a lot of the things I liked about Prime was, and we'll get into this, there's different zones in this game, different areas, and they all are different from one another, but everything in Prime 1 felt far more distinct from one another. Like each area felt wholly different, and it's not like, there obviously are visual differences and music, and like, well, we've got the what are the 3 main areas? What are they called in this game? Aegon Waste, Torvus Bog, Sanctuary Fortress, and then there's the is the Sky Temple just sort of the main central hub area that connects them all?
No, the Sky Temple's the final boss area.
Okay, so I guess it's just
Aether.
or
Yeah, Aether. There's like the temple or whatever in the middle.
It's, yeah. So each of them, we've got a swamp, we've got more of a desert, and then we've got, and you've lovingly called this in our notes and to myself when we were talking about it previously, a Tron area, which I think is pretty appropriate. But it just doesn't hit the same way as some of the locations from Prime 1, which still stick out in my memory, even though we've played that
a year ago.
Quite a while ago at this point.
It was October of last year.
Yeah, so it's been a hot minute. And yeah, so I think that combined with a lot of the additional backtracking that you do in this game and some of the other systems and mechanics, the light and the dark, which I just flat out do not like. I don't know if you want to get into talking about that now. It clearly is borrowing from Link to the Past, but I don't like I don't think this game stands out from a vibes perspective in the same way that Metroid Prime did, which was my favorite element of that game. So
Okay, I do want to establish how we both played this game first. I think that will provide some context
yeah,
for some things. I played on a GameCube. I decided out of my two options available to me, GameCube or Wii, I was like, and since we played Prime 1 Remastered on the Switch, I wanted some GameCube context since Corruption's only on the Wii. And so I did play on my GameCube. But you, on the other hand, you played, you just couldn't wait for Nintendo.
I played on a non-Nintendo handheld.
Yeah, you couldn't wait for a Switch port anymore. You tried to hold out.
I'll shout out Prime Hack though. So I played this on my Steam Deck with Prime Hack. Prime Hack's awesome. Like that was my favorite part of this, is just how well that works as a mod for these games. And it looked gorgeous. Like it felt like this game just came out because it ratchets up the visuals too. Obviously I don't know the exact specs of what I was playing on my Steam Deck, but it looked fantastic. And I did originally try to play this on Wii. I have Trilogy on my Wii, and I hooked up my Wii and I started playing it. But just given how my current kind of room is set up, like I wasn't getting great connection with my sensor bar to my Wiimote. Like it was just kind of losing signal a little bit too much. I had to get things a little bit too specific in my room to play it that way. And also, I hurt my arm somehow earlier this year, and playing the Wii was putting a lot of strain on my forearm. It was killing me. So I got like an hour into playing it on Wii, and I was like, I gotta stop. This is hurting me, like physical pain. So that's when the Steam Deck option came in, which I appreciate. I really liked playing it on Steam Deck.
I assume this is how you'll play the rest of them.
Yeah, I'll play I will play Hunters on my 3DS just because I have it, and I will play that way. But yeah, Corruption, I'll probably play the same way. I have played Corruption on Wii in the past, so I don't feel as bad about, defaulting
Sure.
to
I
Steam
wonder,
Deck on that one.
you could hack your 3DS and then use the control stick as the camera control there. You can.
I could.
I'm pretty sure that is a thing.
I kind of want to play Hunters just the way it was made. For
Way
the
it
heck
was
of it.
intended.
It's way shorter. It's 6 to 7 hours. So I don't feel
One
like
would
it'll
hope.
be that crazy.
And the reason I wanted to set up the way that we played was you played with dual analog stick, not really a too dissimilar an experience to what we had with Metroid Prime Remastered, but I was playing with a GameCube controller, obviously no second analog stick. A lot of locking on.
Was it a
turning.
Wavebird, though?
Oh, yeah.
That you
I'm not a
used?
heathen. Not a heathen.
Didn't know if you're wiring it up over there.
No. I did wire up my bongos, though, to play Donkey Kong Jungle Beat.
Good game.
It is a good game, actually. So that kind of set it up for me, at least in this sense, because I was worried how those controls would age, and then knowing what I knew about this game as far as the difficulty, which apparently was a goal for them, according to an interview, just a quote I found on the Wikipedia page, was like they were targeting the hardcore audience with this one, and always make the player always worried about their health, which they succeed in predominantly. And
I never really felt like I was running out of health. Were you?
I mean, yeah, I think the Dark World does a decent job of that until you
Well,
get
yes.
that Dark Suit upgrade.
Yeah. Early on, that's definitely a thing. But yeah, about 3 or 4 hours in, that kind of
You get the Dark
loses-
Suit, the brown suit, and it
Which is-
eases up.
that suit's very ugly.
Oh, thank
be
God! I
honest.
thought you were gonna say it was good looking. It's like that's the
No,
ugliest.
that suit
and
looks
you're in the
horrible.
suit. You're in that suit for most of the game, and it's just
Like 75% of the game.
It's
You're in a normal
hideous.
suit at the start, and then you get that ugly hunk of junk, and then you get the light suit there at the end. And then it just falls off Samus. I'm like, oh, that's it. So I'm going to walk out in my normal gear now. Bye.
I mean, the main hook of this game is that light and dark world mechanic. And this has so many implications to the Metroid formula. And I think there are things that work from it and things that don't work from it. And how did you feel overall about light world, dark world energy here?
So this is the main reason why I just like this game, is that I think one of the best aspects of any Metroidvania is obviously you've got a map of your own that you can view within the game and see and consult at any time you need. But I'm making a map myself in my head of trying to remember where things are and kind of consulting my brain as I play through any Metroidvania game. And that was near impossible because there are duplicates of every area in the game. And there's always slight little differences here and there, which means you did have to consult your map a whole lot more. And that ability to just pull from my memory and, seeing this blast door that I can't get through because I need power bombs, and it's like making a mental note of, okay, I need to come back there. And again, I know this stuff is logged on your map, but that's kind of the satisfying gameplay loop I think of a Metroidvania, is just having that sort of aha moment of remembering where you've seen things before and knowing that you can now go back to those areas. I felt like those were greatly diminished because my brain felt like it was scrambled at all times because the light areas and the dark areas were like merging together in my mind. I'm like, wait, I know I've seen this. What area was that at? But what version of said area was it at? And it just is so confusing. And so that was my big hurdle really from start to finish with this game. And obviously we can get into some more stuff with like how you have to get certain like item upgrades and the backtracking involved with them. We'll talk more about that in a second. But just generally, as far as the light and dark system goes, that was my big annoyance with it. And I understand what they were going for. And I don't like, on paper, I think this is a good idea. Like, hey, what if we take the light and dark world stuff from Link to the Past and try that in a Metroidvania? Like, cool idea, great idea. I just think it's really, really challenging to the point of being, too frustrating. Again, going back to the word frustrating, like we talked about at the top.
So for me, I was thinking about this, and the light world versions of these areas, the Aegon Waste, the Torvus Bog, and Sanctuary Fortress, are visually distinct enough. I think Torvus Bog and Aegon Waste are close in color palette, but one is a goopy swamp and one is a desert. Like
There's a lot of browns in this game.
It's very
Samus's suit, the environments. I don't know.
Brown is a big color kind of in this generation, and leading into PS3.
Yeah,
Resistance, follow in.
Resistance. Obviously, the Call of Duties of that area were kind of heading that direction.
Yeah. And so you can tell those apart, but I think what contributes to that confusion is not only then are areas replicated in the dark world, as one would assume if you're going to mirror dimensions and overlap planets and negative energy and stuff, but the dark world versions of every place ostensibly look the same because they're all purple goopy areas, with maybe the Sanctuary Fortress being the only standout because everything is cyber there. But the first two just kind of meld. And the other key problem is the dark world is not cohesive. There are entries and exits and chunks of the world. The entire space is not replicated. So you cannot free roam the dark realm. If you are in one part of the map, you may not be able to get to another part of the map without having to leave, go through the light world, and then come back into the dark world. And that, combined with the fact you can't mentally really grasp this whole map, I think, on a first playthrough, it just makes the backtracking even harder because you might know it's in one version, but you might go to the wrong door. And this is where, like, a modern version of this game, if it was made today, there'd be a couple key differences, but one of them would be you can mark your map in a
Yes.
more sensical way for the player to know, like, oh, this secret is here, or this portal goes to
Did they
this
do that
portal.
in the Prime remaster? I can't remember. Sorry to cut you off.
Can't. No, you can't mark the map in the
Okay.
Prime remaster. But I like, if this game was designed, just designed ground up today, marking the map would be a part of it. So you're spending more time in the map, but then my other problem kind of goes with the map here, is they try to make the game far more vertical, and that makes sense in light of adding the screw attack later in the game and other things like that. But the iconic 3D map does not
It's layered
work.
on top of itself.
It's layered on top of itself, and so you might be trying to pan up a tower, but then it's automatically grabbing maybe part of the map behind it or off at an angle. And so it's actually a very delicate maneuvering of this 3D object. And so the design of, I guess the light world was more segmented, like the dark world, where I could just kind of have individual chunks when viewing the map. And so I feel like those things all collide together to make navigating this entire planet tougher than it should be, especially in a game where exploration is so vital.
Yeah, I mean, and it's that combination of everything you just said combined with what I was saying before. Like, do you agree that all of the locations in Prime 1 were far more memorable in a lot of senses? Maybe not all of them, but like...
I remember Fendrana.
Fendrana's the big one. I think everybody
and the
remembers,
ship,
obviously.
like the ship, the frigate crash site.
Yeah, like there's a couple more in Prime 1 that I feel like just jump out to me. Like if I was to rank all the different biomes or areas, I feel like Aegon, Torvus Bog, and Sanctuary Fortress would like be near the bottom of a comprehensive list of like all 8, 9, 10 of them across both games that we've seen now.
I think the bog is the standout in this game.
The bog is good.
I like the bog a lot.
I mean, the music in the bog is very good. I think Aegon Waste is the most easy to traverse, so I kind of appreciated that, because obviously once you get to Sanctuary Fortress, you've unlocked so many different abilities, and then you're getting the screw attack, and like you said, things are getting more vertical because you're bouncing off those. Then you've got the spider ball, and so you're climbing up walls with those. You have to pay far more attention in the Sanctuary Fortress to like what is on walls and what's around you to kind of get a sense of where you're supposed to go. And I think that area in particular is perhaps the most frustrating to navigate because of that, because it builds up with everything else you've had.
Well, I mean, can we do a Sanctuary Fortress tangent here?
Yeah.
I played the whole game without a guide up until the Sanctuary Fortress. It is an impossible maze to navigate, I think. But I really hope you like the Morph Ball, because every single key thing involves the Morph Ball. Every boss fight, every power-up, it is all the Morph Ball, and I hate it. At first, I'm like, this is cute, an interesting idea. When you get, I forget which power-up, but there's like the Morph Ball Guardian, the Power Bomb Guardian, I think. That makes sense. It's like a map on the wall, it's 2D, you're floating around, that's cool. I'm like, that's cute. And then they're like, no, what if you did it more? What if we use the spider ball here? What if the final boss of the whole area involved using the Morph Ball to defeat it? Oh, I hope you like these tracking bombs on the wall. Better dodge those. Hope you don't die.
That was very annoying. When you have the spider ball and then other enemies start trying to shoot you down. Incredibly frustrating.
They took a good idea too far. But I think it's at this point in the game that it's just this Sanctuary Fortress super vertical. You have all this Morph Ball stuff. They really start leaning on like secrets are invisible here, which I don't like.
Which is the whole, I mean, we'll talk about the 9 keys, but what are we doing?
Yeah.
Like,
I actually thought at one point in the Sanctuary Fortress that I had soft locked myself, which I was surprised that type of scenario could even happen in a Prime game. But I was just like, I cannot escape. I can't get out of this area. I don't know what to do. The answer was to grapple across a canyon. It's actually on the other side of where one of the 9 keys are, if you remember the one that's like across a big gap. You have to hop the gap. There's a portal on that side, but you can't access it in this status. And you have to turn around back toward the grapple, and there's invisible switches, like the missile switches on the wall over there that you have to shoot, that then like lowers a ladder or something of the equivalent, like or turns the portal on or something. But it's just, invisible switches are bad. It actually reminds me of this. I went to a hotel a couple of weeks ago. I promise this makes sense. And the nightstand lamps were there, obviously, and they were on when we entered. It was fine, whatever. When we came back and it was time to go to bed, I was trying to find the switch to shut them off. There's no twisty knob. There's no power button. There's nothing on the cord. There is no visible switch at all. So what do you do in a hotel? You just unplug it. You're just like, I need you off. Unplug from the wall. The following morning, I plug them back in, and when we're leaving the hotel room, I put my hand down on the lamp to unplug a USB cable from it, and when I touched the base, the light turned off. The switch was invisible. It was touch sensitive on the base with zero indication that this would be the way to turn a light on and off.
Maybe it was a clapper. You should have tried to clap.
Maybe, but that's the same thing here. Instead of creating a visually interesting puzzle switch or some sort of solution that you eventually could crack with a power-up, they just said, we'll make it invisible, and you have to use our black and red and white visor to find it. I hope you remember to use this all the time. That, I think, is poor game design. It's just making it invisible.
They really doubled down on the sort of invisible things in this game. I mean, this was an element of the first Prime, but then in this one, they do it with the infrared visor or whatever it's called. And then obviously the Soundwave one too. So not only are you looking for, but they don't both, like, why not just have them both overlap into being the same thing is my question. Like I get it from like a world building perspective or whatever you want to call it, but like just making one the normal viewpoint, one the scan visor, and then the other one a combo of both of those two would have been, I feel like, great. Instead, it's that much more annoying because you're looking for sound wave things to interact with, and you're looking for things that are invisible in the environment. And obviously, they didn't come up too much until, like I mentioned, you're searching for the 9 keys, and then everything is invisible, which feels completely insane to me. We'll talk about the 9 keys and the great backtrack of them all. As far as the final thing on Sanctuary Fortress, though, like you mentioned, the morph ball stuff, this is by far the most annoying area to backtrack through because of that. You are constantly getting through your morph ball. Like when you first solve some of these puzzles or unlock some of these pathways, it's like, okay, that's cool. I think of the big one, like where you have to line up or you have to like drop a bomb in certain color coordinated things. And so it opens up that big middle pathway and they kind of align. I don't know if you remember what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But that's like a huge like gap, or that's a huge like centerpiece between two different sections of Sanctuary Fortress. And every time you have to get in your ball and go through that, and it just takes, it doesn't take too long, 15, 20, 30 seconds. But still, it's like, it's frustrating to navigate because you're like, I know where I need to go, but there's so much time wasted just hopping into a ball, zipping along through the stuff that I've gone through 50 times over. And they try to add some shortcuts, and they try to, interconnect all 3 of the areas with one another in different ways, which we could talk about a little bit too. But yeah, Sanctuary Fortress did not like, least favorite of the 3, even though aesthetically it might be one of the more interesting ones. Like Aegon Wastes I liked because, again, it was a little bit more simple to get around, but it's pretty brown. It's a desert. So yeah, I mean, we've talked a lot about backtracking. And I mentioned how these are all interconnected with one another too. Here's my other biggest problem with this game is that, again, Aegon Waste, this isn't a thing because it's the first area. But when you get to Torvus Bog, you get about halfway through the bog and then you kind of get stuck. And you're like, okay, well, what do I do? Where do I go? And it turns out the solution is you have to then take one of the power-ups you've gotten at that point in the bog, and you have to go back to Aegon Waste. And I think that's when you unlock the suit, or you unlock something really vital there.
You have to go all the way back to like the main hub world and get the Seeker missiles, which then will let you unlock the purple doors, which is where the underwater gravity boost thing is what you need to explore the back half of Torvus Bog.
But there's really no indication of this. And I know the game alerts you, if you wander around for a certain amount of time, then the game will pop up with a notification saying, hey, why don't you go check this out? But again, I wish all of the areas could have been, you go to Aegon Waste, and if you want to go to Aegon Waste and you want to completely see it through, then you can get that done. And then same for Torvus Bog and same for Sanctuary Fortress. By like hard forcing you to stop and actively leave the zone you're in to return to one of the ones you've been before and then come back just totally kills all of the momentum that you have in these areas and all of the, again, the frustration with like mapping these things out in your head, because I'm navigating through the bog. I'm trying to figure out where everything's at. I'm in the bog zone. And then the walkthrough I'm in is like, nope, now you got to return and go to one of these old places. I'm like, oh my gosh, where the frick does it want me to go now? And then you get back in the bog finally after you got that, and you're trying to get your bearings of, okay, oh wait, what was in the bog again? And where am I at? And like, they would not let you fully explore these areas and just get a full grasp on them and then maybe come back later. I think if they would have just let you do that and finish these areas in one go and then do the 9 keys thing later, and then you're doing a full backtrack of all 3 of them, I think that would have made a little bit more sense. But you're in the bog, and then you go back to the hub world, and then you go back to the bog, and then you go to the sanctuary, and then you got to go back to the bog again, and then you go back to the sanctuary, and then you're going back to the hub world, and then you got to go to all 3 of them. It's ultimate ridiculousness of backtracking.
It's a tangled web of unsatisfying backtracking, because these are forced backtracks.
Yes.
In a 3D space instead of like the exploratory ones. But you're not, again, like we said, not backtracking one area, you're backtracking 6, because was it in the dark world or is it in the light world? And which area is it in? Oh, I gotta walk.
And what are my entry and exit points for the dark world and light world? I forget, because I know I can go in here, but then that might stop me here, and I know I need to get to this point. And like, it's like only once you have all the upgrades at the end and you are searching for the keys can you kind of go into the dark world and have all paths open for you, because you'll get stopped by, this is a power bomb door or something like that, and they don't want you to have the full ability to explore these areas, and they want you to use these set entry and exit points with the warp areas or whatever you want to call them. It's frustrating. It's so frustrating. And again, just to stress this, I've played plenty of Metroidvanias. I know that, backtracking and going back to previous areas, huge part of the genre. It's one of the, but it's supposed to be one of the enjoyable parts of the genre. You're supposed to kind of want to do that yourself. Like, I think about a game like Arkham City, where it's like you see all these areas. And that's a game that I feel like is a little bit more segmented, and you can kind of map out each area in your mind, and then you have a desire to go back to, okay, let me go back to the factory at the start of the game where the Joker was, and let me go knock all these things out and get all these Riddler trophies that I know I should be able to get now. Like, stuff like that. This game is forcing you to do the backtracking rather than just being able to progress forward in a manner that is satisfying, and that is what is greatly annoying about it. Do you want to talk specifically about the keys? The 9 keys. There's the 9 keys at the end, but obviously you're chasing keys the whole game. You got to get 18 of them throughout the whole game.
I guess, yeah, 3 for each world, yeah. So the 3 keys, like, as you're going through the game, whatever. Like, that's that's how you want to lock it.
In Aegon Waste, I had found like 2 of them, I think, before I even knew I was supposed to be chasing them. And then
Yeah.
it's like, oh, you need these keys. And it's like, oh, these things I found already? Okay, sure. Like,
It's it's fine. It's when you get toward the end of the game and you've scanned a couple of logs and like some of the bug people, I forget they're like my key is now here or something. Like they talk about dying and sacrificing, but you're never really like, oh, I guess this is what I need to get to the final area. But then it's like, and now you must go find 9 keys. And it's like, oh
and it's
no.
so unsatisfying at that moment because the whole game builds up to you, kicking on all 3 of the lights and bringing them back into unification and then you finally do it and you're like, yes, awesome. Finally time to see what this unlocks and where I need to go. And then the bug homie's like, just kidding. Go find 9 keys. It's like, oh my gosh, are you serious?
I do think the like in-game solution to finding the keys, like the area of the keys, is cool. With
like
the
scanning
lore
the
drops
faces of the different
and scanning the faces, and it matches
yeah.
up with the lore entries that you've and they're blue aliens instead of the other colors, so like they're visually distinct in the overworld. I like that. I did find one of the keys before reaching the end of the game, and it was that one in Sanctuary Fortress. I was like, I know something's over there again because I was in the dark visor in that space and saw the octopus floating jellyfish thing. It was like, I want that, and went and got it. It was like, okay, this is something I'll need. Didn't realize there were 8 more that I had to get. But it is, like you said, it is just a total pace killer. You are ready. And I think the intent is, well, now you're all powerful. You have everything you need. You have the light suit, all of your power-ups. You have so many missile and ammo expansions. You've got all your energy tanks. Like, you are now an unstoppable force, and it lets you ransack the dark world in a way. But it is just not fun to get to the end and be told, no, you need to go back now. It's just not fun.
Well, the whole time you're going through, obviously, all 3 of these areas, you're making mental notes of, okay, there's this door here I know I haven't gone through, and this door here. And so being able to go back to these places is, there is a satisfaction in, going back to them and now knowing that you can get everywhere, which is you've been stopped the whole game because you don't have certain power-ups, you don't have certain items or certain suits. So there's a satisfaction in that regard. But a lot of times I would try to be like, okay, maybe there's a key in here. And it's like, nope, just a missile upgrade or something like that. So you're like, no, I don't want, like, which is, again, there's a satisfaction in finding those too. But like a lot of these doors that you saw 10 hours prior that you're like, oh, cool, now I can jump through that. You walk through and it's just a power bomb upgrade, a missile upgrade. It's like, okay,
Sure.
Well, that's kind of unsatisfying. That's the only thing that was behind that door that I saw so long ago. But this has been my thing from the beginning with Metroid is I think that is one of the most unsatisfying aspects of Metroid full stop in any of the games is that 90% of the things you're getting or the items you're going out of your way to get or the upgrades you're getting are just, how about 5 more missiles? How's that sound? Good? Great. And then like in this game, the missiles don't even really play a huge part in like the final late stage areas. Like maybe with Emperor Ing or whatever it's called, I used him a lot there, especially on like his little
I don't know. I
tentacles.
think missiles are just another ammo currency to combine with the elemental ammo.
With the elementals, yeah.
Yeah, and then obviously the seeker missile doors as well, where you need 5 to unlock those.
Yeah.
So missiles are more like mechanical in that way, if that makes sense, instead of just dealing tons and tons of damage. But
the cherry on top of the keys, though, really is like you were saying. They stuff all of the keys in invisible floating alien things. Like if you needed to find 9 keys, they could have just, made them a little bit more apparent of where they're at. And I get that they want you to consult the lore and scan these things and try to figure it out on your own. Like, yeah, it's very...
In Prime
dense
1, they
world
were
building.
invisible, but they were just hidden inside objects where
Yes.
if you figured out the environmental puzzle they were having you solve to like knock the tower over or blow up the magma rock,
Mm-hmm.
you could have naturally stumbled across that. But the only way to stumble across invisible jellyfish is if you're in the room and you have
And you kick on your visor.
Yeah. And you just happen to see it floating. You're like, I wonder what that is. It's so silly to make a critical item just invisible.
The most critical item, one could
The
argue.
most, like for endgame progress, the most critical. It's just it's a big fat bummer. I mean, I followed a guide. I was like, that's what I did. I turned to it. I was like, I don't want to do this. Optimize my flow, please. Let me get back to where I want to be, which is going off to find the final boss. I would have, this is like, dream scenarios or whatever. I get this game had yet another crunch scenario to get it out the door on time in November of 2004. But like, I would have much rather the Sky Temple be another temple than 9 keys around and like find them all.
Yeah.
I
thought that the Sky Temple
padded.
was actually going to be a location, and instead it's like a hallway in a big room, and that's about it.
But also though, by that point of the game, after the 9 keys, I was glad it was a hallway in a room.
Yeah, same here. I didn't want it to be anything else by that point. I was ready for this to be over. We've talked a lot about the world design and the structure, which I think is obviously the main thing to talk about with any Metroidvania or any one of these Metroid games. I did want to ask you, I want to talk about story, but I want to hold on that for a second. Let's dive into gameplay, because I feel like this kind of goes in tandem more with the world design stuff, and we've also already been talking about it a little. How do you feel about what's here? For the most part, all the abilities are the same as what was in Metroid Prime 1. There are obviously some differences with the, light and dark beams and stuff like that. How do you feel about your Samus's array of upgrades that she can get in this game?
I think the visors are weak. Visors are weak sauce this time around. It was actually a pretty big bummer for me. I think the beams are thematically fine. I don't think gameplay-wise they contribute all that much. I would have rather had wave and freeze beams and things like that.
It adds yet another ammo currency that you're also always on the hunt for, and sometimes you need them to like get through certain doors. So I felt like I never wanted to use them, because if I was out and all of a sudden I stumble across a door that I need to shoot through with a corresponding beam, I wanted to make sure I had that ammo on hand. So
thankfully they are generous. It's a very Ikaruga. Have you ever played that game? That shmup?
I have
it's a very similar light dark ammo type thing. Like when you are, I think it's like when you're in dark ammo, like dark stuff doesn't hurt you, but the white does, and you have to keep flipping between, if I remember the pattern correctly. So if you shoot something with the light beam, dark ammo comes out, and if you shoot stuff with the dark beam, so they are very generous, and there is a gameplay way to farm the ammo back that you need. And if you're truly out of both, eventually the game will just spit the ammo to you after you fill up all your other things first.
Okay.
So I think it is fair in that sense. Like you're never like truly out of an option to get it, because there's something you can shoot to farm ammo out. I think it's fine. I just don't think it like fits in this game, but I don't think it felt very Metroid. I do like how the Annihilator beam takes both ammos, like it's a true fusion, but that also
That's
just
really cool.
felt like a cop out isn't the right word, but just like, oh, it's just light and dark beams together. Like it didn't feel diverse. This game felt very tuned in on the light and dark stuff, and I was kind of tired of it by the end there.
I think the beams from Metroid Prime 1, the ice beam, isn't there like a wave beam or something like that too? And then there's the like the magma fire like one. Yeah, I thought those were much cooler, far more different from one another. I do like the combo of light and dark. I think that's cool.
Sure.
Again, for the most part though, didn't really. I didn't hate the light and dark stuff, but I didn't prefer it over what had already been in the series. Again, fits with the theme, fits with everything, with Dark Samus, Light and Dark World. I get it. It's not necessarily my favorite either. And yeah, other than that, like, there's really, what's the only other new things in this game otherwise? Is it the screw attack?
Screw attack?
Which I hated,
Oh.
to be honest.
You were a hater.
I feel like it is very specific at the way you have to use it.
It has a very particular cadence.
It has a very particular cadence. Yes, it wants you to do it slowly, but not too slow, or else you won't start it in time. And then you're just falling to the ground.
I wrote the same thing down. I was like, it's not transferring well to 3D, because in 3D it's fast, it's snappy, it feels good. This one was like, you've got to match your rhythm just right, and even like mid jump, if you miss it, you push it too fast or too slow, you'll fall out of the animation. It's not very gracious.
It doesn't just want you to use the screw attack off certain walls and stuff like that to bounce into certain areas. It wants
across
you to
chasms.
use them to thread a needle. I think of after you defeat Emperor Ing, that countdown timer starts, and the platform rises up, and then the door's over there, and you have to screw attack through the door, but it is so tiny. I burnt like 90 seconds of the timer there at the end.
I don't
just
remember
trying to
having
screw
to
attack.
do that. I don't think
unless there is like unless there's like a hidden platform or something with the thermal vision that you can see.
I don't remember that. I'll have to look at my footage. The screw attack is just delicate.
But yeah, you have to like thread through this doorway with the screw attack, or at least I did. And then you have to get through there, and then you got to go fight Dark Samus at the end. And I was so concerned that I had burnt too much of my time trying to screw attack through this doorway that I wasn't going to have enough time to beat Dark Samus. And so I was like, hold on, I got to look up how you beat Dark Samus before I start on this fight, because I don't want to run out of time. And so I had to look up
you looked it up
fight solution.
You started. Okay.
Yeah, because I did not want to die there, because then I know doing so would restart the entire Emperor Ing fight and then Dark Samus on, which is why I have actually, I said I've played Prime 3 before. I've never beaten Prime 3 because I died on the final boss fight in that game against Dark Samus. And yeah, same sort of thing. Like the most recent save before you get to that final boss fight is like 30 minutes beforehand. And I was like, I think I'm good. I think we'll just say that I beat the game and save the world or the galaxy or whatever. So yeah, I want to make sure I can beat that. Screw attack is cool. I think it's the coolest little ability that Samus has for sure, but it is just very particular. It's hard to use properly. So that's my main pushback against that one. And otherwise, I don't feel like there's really anything else different. I mean, the visors, which we both
there's
like.
The gravity boost is new, like an underwater jetpack.
Yeah,
essentially that was interesting. I kind of just thought it'd be a Various suit power up equivalent, like I'd just be able to move freely. And they were like, no, you get a floaty underwater jump. I'm like, okay, I could deal with that. So yeah, that's kind of it, which is fine. Like the Prime formula works as far as that gameplay goes. I just think they were too thematically tight. It didn't feel spacey enough. And a surprising lack of new Morph Ball stuff, despite all of the Morph Ball content. So, what are you gonna do?
I don't really feel like there's a lot else to say on gameplay, unless you want to talk about like the boss fights here.
I do want to talk about those. They're hard.
You clearly hated the Sanctuary Fortress one.
Yeah, a lot of too much Morph Ball there. They're hard. I remember Boost Ball being particularly difficult. With that one Ing where, shocker, Morph Ball. That one took me a while. Actually, I had to look up a guide on just like some speedrun strats of like, how do I beat this thing? That was pretty tough. I think overall, when you combine the Dark World eats your health away mechanic with fighting these bosses, it adds a level of tension to it that a normal Metroid boss fight just didn't have. So I did like that tension there. And generally, the game is generous with giving you health drops at certain phases and things like that. Like the risk is low mid to late game of you actually dying in the dark world to a boss fight, unless the boss itself beats you. But that tension is still there. Then the Emperor Ing fight, I ran out of ammo.
I was going to say, did you die on this?
I did not die.
Why you warned me? Okay.
No, I almost died twice and knew what was going to be my consequence. So Emperor Ing itself is you got to use the right ammo. So I hope you found all the ammo pickups. And I hope you don't run out of ammo, because I ran out of ammo. And at that point, it's just dodge, 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 dodge until ammo falls from the sky, because you can't do it. Because the game was like, you can't shoot anything, so what are you going to do? That was just very stressful and technical. There's just nothing, I don't know. It's too hard there. The Annihilator beam is good, but you go through it quick.
Mm-hmm. I didn't even think to use that. Can you use that on him just by default, no matter what color he is?
Yeah.
Like if he's... okay. Huh.
So then, hope you have enough of that ammo left over after fighting Emperor Ing for Dark Samus. So you get to Dark Samus, and so I want to say this. I really like the escape sequence and a final boss fight being together. I think that creates actually a real sense of urgency and pressure and escape and just like a run for your life type scenario. I think it's really cool. That being said, the solution to beating Dark Samus is a mechanic that is not given to you at any time beforehand. I really hope you just figured it out naturally, or you're going to die, because I got down to about 2 minutes and was like, how do I defeat this? And I had to look it up. And you have to suck in these orbs. And I believe I was seconds away from like a game over. And it was just because of a classic game design problem of introducing a new mechanic.
Mm-hmm. Well, when you scan Dark Samus, it says something like, oh, maybe you can use the Phazon and redirect it, or like you can charge up the Phazon or something like that. It's like, clear. But what does that even mean? You know, like,
and it's moving
because she's
so
shooting
fast.
Different types. Yep. She's shooting different types of energies at you. She has the one big beam, which is like, that's Phazon 2. So I would think like, why can't you absorb that? But no, it wants you to absorb these very specific little trinkles of Phazon that she's shooting.
And in a very specific way. It's like the Uncharted 4 final boss fight. They're like, what if you just learned how to sword fight at the end of the game? And they talked about introducing that mechanic earlier in that game, but it got cut for time or what have you. And Metroid Prime suffers from the same problem, except it's under that high, tense pressure situation. And the punishment is you have to go beat Emperor Ing again. There's actually a save point between the two, but it's broken, and the game actually kind of laughs at you. It's like, it's broken. You're going to have to go find another save spot. There is no other save spot.
It turns off the save spot that it previously allowed you to use.
Exactly. So I'm mad at the final fight, but I appreciate it, if that makes any sense. It's tough. It's a tough fight, and I don't think in an entirely fair way.
I have issues with the final fight from a story perspective, which we can get into here in a second. So I'll hold off on that. As far as the bosses go, just generally though, highlight of the game really for me was the one.
Did you
get your
did you channel your inner Muad'Dib during the worm fight? Shai
Halud? Yeah. Yes. These were the one instances of the game where I felt like I could not totally turn my brain off, because you're looking for the solution to beat them, but I could finally, for these periods of 15-20 minutes, shut off my brain from the thought processes of, where's this at? Where's this? Oh, do I need to go to the light or dark world? Where? Oh, I got to backtrack here. Like all these things we've talked about that were greatly annoying throughout the game and like made it almost angsty to play. It made me angsty to play this game. Then the boss fights, it was just as simple as, oh, here's a big thing, shoot it, or spider,
Pew, pew, pew.
use your spider ball or your morph ball to drop bombs in this thing. It's like, okay, cool, this is fun. I liked all of them. I think Emperor Ing is probably the least enjoyable of them all, which kind of sucks as the final boss. I felt like not his, but I guess it is his. He's an emperor, so that means it's a man, dark bug monster thing. Yeah, I just think Emperor Ing was not all that interesting gameplay wise. Like there was no, like you mentioned, not liking the one because it was all centered around the morph ball. I don't think Emperor Ing really had anything that utilized many of the abilities that you had gathered over the course of the game. And then the one instance that really did would be when he goes into his little cocoon and it's like, use your spider ball and crawl around on him and drop bombs. It's like, that was the one section where I felt like it was, trying to get you to use some of the power-ups that you had acquired throughout the game. Otherwise, it was just shoot its tentacles. Cool. Now shoot its glowing orb. Now shoot it with either dark or light energy or with the Annihilator, whatever. So I didn't care for that fight. And then, yeah, same issues that you mentioned with the Dark Samus fight. Obviously, I looked up how to do it, like I said, because I was so stressed of failing. So I did cheat in that manner. But yeah, the introduction of that mechanic, totally just out of left field. You don't do anything else like that throughout the entire game. And there's no real visual cue to it either. Like if they wanted to let you know, like the only, I guess, visual cue is like the energy around Dark Samus grows really large right before those like shoot off her. The
sure, but that's like a cue to get ready for it. It would have actually been better if they wanted to do it purely through mechanics, right, and not teach you or have you scan it. It would have been better if those phase-on things that you're supposed to absorb popped off of Dark Samus and stayed still in the air for a little bit as maybe her power wound up, looking like everything else you suck up with your cannon, health, ammo restores. So like these things that are there, and that would indicate to you in some manner, at least visually, that they look similar to other pickups you get that then you can absorb. And if you can absorb enough and fire before her power grows to a certain level, then you could fire away and all that stuff. That would have been a cool way to do it.
How did you absorb them, by the way? Because obviously I played with twin sticks, so I could just look upward and aim like exactly where they're at. I know you can't do that perfectly.
They just came in, as far as I remember. I didn't have to stand there, hold R and L and point and aim and pick them up.
You didn't have to like line it up perfectly. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
You could just stay locked on to Dark Samus and suck things up. So yeah, it's a good end, but just they just kind of trip again. It's similar to hide the thing and just make it invisible. It's like you have a new mechanic in the most stressful situation of the entire game.
Yes. I mean, this is a discussion we can have more probably once we get to the end of Prime 3, but so many of these things I feel like we're bringing up throughout the course of this episode, I feel like are things that other people have probably brought up over the past, 20 years, like you said. And it makes me that much more interested to see what they do with Prime 4. Obviously, they made another game after this with Prime 3, and I kind of know how they've responded to some of the complaints we have here. That game is just way more segmented by comparison. But I wonder what they're going to do with Prime 4. Like, are they going to try to go back to the roots of the series, kind of with the original Prime, or are they going to try to do something more in this vein? I would guess probably not, because they want that game to be a little bit more accessible for newcomers to some degree, but maybe I'm wrong.
I feel like, again, to down the hypothetical path, if this game was made today, I think they would have done it, constructed it all in a manner where the three areas, Aegon Waste, Bog, and Sanctuary, you can go do them in any order. And there will be some roadblocks and you can get some power-ups here and there, but you can approach each one, and then they're self-contained in that way, like you were talking about hoping. I feel like if it was designed today in a post-Elden Ring, Breath of the Wild type world, they'd be all open in some manner, way, shape, or form, and you'd be able to bounce between them in a more natural backtracky way instead of
The
a
bug
forced
man
one.
would teach you all the languages at the same time.
The language,
whatever.
Not even that. I feel like that could have been a more lore side quest, and you find these
which
things.
they kind of do use it for in that manner too, because they hide those things around.
But also they use it as like a security access key of like, you can't go here until we give you the language key. I think it would have been a more fun thing of like, well, I want to learn more about the lore behind this war and these people. So like, I will seek out these upgrades so that I can decipher more of the lore. So like, you could scan something, but it'd be uninterpretable. And then you could once you get the upgrade, go back and read them and have a deeper understanding of the lore. I think that would have been a more interesting thing to do in a more open design. And I could see them doing a more open design here with Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, but we shall see.
All right, let's talk story. Because this is actually a pretty big aspect of this game, at least far more than the previous game. You wrote down a lot more cutscenes up front, a lot more happening in that opening hour, for sure.
They're straight up, flat up cutscenes. I mean, characters talk.
No, you see the one with Dark Samus there near the start. You see
Umas.
All of the space marines or whatever they're called, dying there at the beginning, and you're coming in. And I think all those moments are cool. I actually kind of wish the game did more of this over the course of the entire game. Because I like these moments up front. And then it just kind of falls off after you get to the main bug boy up there who's like, hey, go find these lights. And you'll come back and you'll talk to him, or you'll talk to other bug people that are spread out through all the 3 different areas. But that's about it. There's no real cutscenes otherwise, except for, little clips that play before boss fights or whatever. So I feel like they should have leaned into this a little bit more than they do. And then I'll talk a little bit more about like some other stuff here in a second. But like, what do you think?
I think the do cutscenes and Metroid storytelling go together? Is kind of the question I struggle with here, because Metroid Prime 1 does all of its storytelling pretty much through the environment. There's the intro cutscene and a couple of like boss intro cutscenes and things like that. But the entire narrative is unfolded to you through the environment and through log scanning, which is an optional gameplay mechanic. And in video games, there's always this push and pull between environmental storytelling and like the cutscene thing. People will, you look at The Last of Us and it's like, well, or Uncharted. It's just a movie. What are you doing in between there? And then you could have a game more like Elden Ring or Dark Souls, where it's like all environmental storytelling, right? There's not like, as far as, you correct me if I'm wrong, there's not some like big cutscene with a troll or whatever. Ornstein and Smo don't like come out and give you a little narrative before they fight you. They kind of just plop down. So to swing so heavily into a cutscene story narrative, kind of more in your face, it's a little off-putting. It's cool, it's flashy, but I don't know what it adds. And we know what a very heavy cutscene narrative-focused Metroid game looks like. It's called Other M. And that has not been received well, right? And there's just story problems with that game, just like structurally what they were doing with it. I actually like Other M from a gameplay perspective. It has been a long time since I've played that, so don't hold me to it. But I didn't like love all of them, but I do like the mood some of them set. I think the environmental storytelling bits were stronger. There's this part early on where you're like you're a morph ball going through a space pirate base, like, because of course space pirates are here, and you see them run into a dark portal. And then later you will go through that dark portal and see what happened to them. I think that's really cool natural storytelling through gameplay. There's this whole really rich lore in the game, right? All these log scans, these scattered bodies of the bug people is just kind of what I called them. And they're like their righteous religious war and seeking of things out in space to find a home, these alone people. You've got Dark Samus, who's completely mute, stealing Phazon, still not entirely sure why that is. That stuff's all really cool and sets the mood. But I feel like the cutscenes, I don't know, it doesn't feel as woven in as good as it could be. I don't know. I prefer Metroid games to tell their stories through environment, I think, set the mood and keep me in the game. There are a lot of space pirate or Federation Force references, and the beginning of the game is scary. I was surprised at all of the corpses early on, like just hanging. It really sets a dark and spooky mood. And that's also environmental storytelling, but a lot of little Fedi troops, and I just kept thinking about my little space marine. I was like, he's up there, hoping for Samus's help.
I did too. I like the order we played these games in because it made the opening of the game where they're all dying like that much more intense. Like, oh my gosh, my little Federation Force boy. So that was very funny to me as well. I think my big issue is that, like you're talking about the cutscenes and stuff, even though there is cutscenes, there is not, talking really. There is lore dumps and explanations and overall, like thrust of like what you're supposed to be doing from the bug people. But that's it. Like the cutscenes themselves, there is no talking. And I'm not saying I need Samus to give a 5-minute monologue.
It's the classic. It's that classic, like even Zelda debate, right? Oh, we're playing Skyward Sword and there's still no voice acting? Wah!
Well, I think my issue is that like some things have fallen through the cracks for me here when it comes to understanding the story. For instance, I did not realize until about 2 hours ago when I beat this game, was looking some stuff up about it. And I saw people be like, wow, it's so cool that Dark Samus is the reincarnation of Metroid Prime. And I was like, excuse me, what?
What?
What are you talking about?
Wait, you're informing me. This is what I wrote down. I mean, that makes sense.
Do you not know this either?
No. This is what I wrote down. I said, I like the idea that Samus is hunting Dark Samus because of stolen identity. That's what I was like.
So here's the real 1000% real truth of Dark Samus, which I feel like totally falls through the cracks and is like a huge question of like
this game.
If you get the 100% completion of Metroid Prime 1, at the end credits there will be a bubbling pool of Phazon liquid where you killed the Metroid Prime, and out of that bursts a hand that resembles Samus's hand. And then in this game you see Dark Samus. So the remnants of Metroid Prime have created a new form that mimics Samus. Because
this explains the push for Phazon. Okay.
Yes.
My problem...
But they don't. But none of this makes any sense. Like, that's what I'm saying. You have to 100% complete the previous game, and then this is the main threat. Like, we didn't do that. You didn't know that until now. And Dark Samus has been in all sorts of media. I mean, we mentioned Smash at the top, but like, this stuff is like never really explained in any sort of way. And I don't need tons of talking.
I would have just thought it would have been explained in 3.
I don't know. But this is the thing with Dark Samus's final form here at the end of the game, when it's like all skeleton looking, like that resembles the Metroid Prime from the previous game. And that's supposed to be the light bulb moment of like, oh, this is it. And it didn't really hit me until after I beat the game and saw people talking about this, like, wow, this game ends on such a great narrative note of Samus coming across her arch rival, the Metroid Prime, which is taking the form of Dark Samus now, and Dark Samus is still hunting her, and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, I did not know any of this. What are we talking about here? You're like, it blew my mind reading this too. And then I poured myself into some wikis while I was eating lunch today and was reading up on this stuff. And that's what I'm saying. It just all falls through the cracks. And I think it's actually kind of cool, the storytelling they're doing, but you wouldn't know these things unless you're just a hardcore fan and you've 100%ed all the games and you're picking up on everything that's going. Otherwise, you're just like, oh, hey, this is the second Metroid game and there's now a Dark Samus in the game. Sure, why not?
So I wrote this down. I just kind of thought it was like an of the time decision, because if you remember the games that were coming out around this time, the big popular ones, Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness, Dark Lugia, or Jack 2 and Jack 3, Dark Jack, edgy.
I mean,
like it was just
there's Dark Links in some of the Zelda games.
Dark Link
like
in 64 and
Yeah.
I think in Twilight, or the skeleton. Anyway, I just kind of thought we're like, we'll just put a mysterious silent villain in here. I kind of thought maybe it was a space pirate thing gone wrong and would be further explained in future games. That's interesting, and I like that. But if you're going to pull something that was a secret from the last game and make it part of the main narrative thrust of this game, you have to give an in-game reason. I'm actually curious now. Maybe does the game the game manual, maybe the game manual says something about it. I don't know. There has to be some sort of context for the thing. Because without
I'm trying to think of other games of the era that had secret endings. Like my brain jumps to Kingdom Hearts, you know. You got to the end of Kingdom Hearts and it would tee up like what they were going to do next in some of the other games.
I mean, is there a more iconic secret ending than Kingdom Hearts 2 with the Keyblade War?
Yeah, that's the one. But you don't need to see that to then
not only
jump into Birth by
Sleep
Sleep and know.
Birth by Sleep opens with it. Like, it's part of the intro cutscene is seeing that graveyard and stuff. Like, it's just...
That's what I'm saying. So it's if you just jump into this game and you haven't 100% in Metroid Prime, like, which, let's be honest, 95% of players probably didn't 100% that game. I mean, back in the day or now. Like,
I feel like the number would probably be higher today.
But even then, there's not really context for it. Like, you just see a hand burst out of a puddle, and then this game starts, and then there's a Dark Samus on planet Aether. It's like,
it would. I think if we had played these, if we had both 100% of Metroid Prime 1 and played it closer together. Also, I think today we play more games and there are more things coming out in our. But back in 2002 and 2004, was the GameCube really like, woo?
What I'm really saying they should have done though with this is they probably should have had Dark Samus kill the bug guy you're talking to, and then halfway through the game you take over as Dark Samus and time goes backwards and you play as Dark Samus for the second half of the game and you sympathize with her.
I was wondering where you were going with this until you said halfway, and I was like, the classic narrative, the classic.
And then you switch back to Samus at the end, and you have to kill Dark Samus.
Yeah.
But you feel guilt as you do.
That would be a better game. That would be pretty dope. And then there's a secret DLC where you play as Ridley and get his side of the story.
Yes.
Yeah, I think the story, it was bold of them to try it. And what I remember the most about Prime 3 and kind of going into it was a lot of inspiration from Halo, and they like really wanted to up the cinematic game even more. So I'm excited to dive into 3 here after Hunters and see how much further they take the cinematic flair here. And then I'm curious how that ultimately will end up in Prime 4 as well, especially given this is, 15 or whatever years later. It's going to be interesting, is all I'm going to say.
Well, the thing that I feel as though that I have to do now is make sure I go back and watch all of the secret endings for Prime 2.
Well,
and make sure there's nothing, because we know Dark Samus is in Prime 3. She's the main bad guy again. But like, for all intents and purposes, she blows up and turns to Phazon dust or whatever at the end of this game. So
we just talked about this in our last episode. If you do not do the optional mission of bringing the Metroid egg back with you in Federation Force, you don't get the secret ending with Silex, which is
that tees up
Metroid Prime 4. Which I mean, if you think not 100% of Metroid Prime 1 for Metroid Prime 2 is like a big thing, imagine not doing the secret optional mission quest in Federation Force to set up Metroid Prime 4, and Silex is introduced in your other handheld game. Like,
oh my gosh! So here it is. I just pulled it up right now. Once again, Metroid Prime 2. If you get 100% completion, the game, there's an 11-second cutscene at the end of the game after the credits where you see the Phazon dust that Dark Samus exploded into floating out in space. I don't know how it got into space, but it's just floating there in space, and then it reassembles into the form of Dark Samus, and then it cuts.
So that's cool, though.
It is. I mean,
cool.
That's a cool ending, but like...
But to be
I don't
fair,
know.
I expect Dark Samus in the third game at this point. Like, I don't actually think the threat is gone by the end of Metroid Prime 2.
Yeah, I guess.
Maybe that's more hindsight, just knowing that Dark Samus is prevalent.
Yeah, I feel like that's only known because we maybe just know that. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe everybody back in the day thought Metroid Prime 3 and they didn't see the secret ending. Maybe they just thought Prime 3 was going to be all Ridley again. A Ridley game. Bring back the space pirates.
I mean, the space pirates never truly go away.
They don't. I feel like that's it for at least story stuff. Again, I'm curious how they approach story with Prime 4. I mean, we'll have a larger conversation once we get to the end of Prime 3. Still don't know the launch date for Prime 4, which is a little weird. At least the time of recording this, we don't.
It's tied to Super Switch. Come on.
I hope it's tied to the launch of that. I feel like we'll learn the date at the Game Awards, probably. That feels like when they'll announce it.
I think we'll never bet on Nintendo doing the same thing twice, but I feel like we'll get like a concept video again and some sort of event at some point, like a dedicated Nintendo event that'll be talking about it. Because
you're just talking about Super Switch stuff.
Yeah. The date for Prime?
Yeah, I'm just talking
the Game
Prime
Awards?
date. I just feel like they'll show a trailer for it.
If Nintendo shows anything, I think that would be the thing they show.
Because that is the last Switch game, for all intents and purposes, from Nintendo. Like, you got the Brothership coming up.
Brothership's out, and
it's actually not. It's actually just leaked everywhere.
No, I thought it was out.
No, it's out in November.
Oh. So dope.
That game leaked like 3 or 4 weeks early, and people have already dumped it onto the internet. So that's probably why you think it's out.
Okay.
I've seen a lot of people talking about it.
Okay. Well.
Anyway, that's news of the time.
That's not good. It's Donkey Kong. Donkey Kong has the furthest known date of January. Donkey Kong Country Returns, Ultimate Edition or whatever. That. And then it'll be Prime 4.
New funky mode.
No funky mode, though.
New funky mode. All right, 2 other things to talk about, and we're going to go. Music and sound design, or just general aesthetic, which I feel like we talked about. A lot of Browns, but the music specifically.
Samus. Did you hear it? Did you? I told you.
They chant. Yeah,
they literally just chant Samus in the main theme.
It's awesome. Which is very funny. I think the soundtrack for this is good. Again, Prime 1's better.
I think Prime 1 has more bangers, but dude, the bog.
Still great.
I was waiting for your message. I was waiting for your message about the bog for months, and you finally sent it. And I was like, yes, he knows. And it's not only the bog is good, but then you get to the basement of the bog, and it's even better. And it's like, oh.
Yeah, I told you this, but I'm very familiar with all of the Metroid soundtracks just because I've listened to, Metroid music compilations or whatever while I'm working. And I'll put those on in the background. So I know a lot of the music from Metroid. I just don't know when the needle drops come in on them. So like when I entered the bog for the first time and that song came on, I was like, oh, here it is. I know where it's from now. So that's been
you're like
enjoyable.
Leonardo DiCaprio. Like, I know.
Yes, the pointing meme. So that's actually been very fun with all of these games, to just have that level of familiarity with the music, but just not know where it's going to show up. And so that makes it fun as like a first timer playing through these games largely blind. But yeah, great soundtrack, fantastic music. Once again, what is composer's name? Kenji Yamamoto. Fantastic work on the soundtrack. Again, still, like most other things with this game, though, Prime 1 is better, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think more consistent. But this game had some songs that stuck out, and I'm happy about it. I like the final boss-ing theme as well. That one had some pretty good epic qualities, so it's fun. I'm excited to see where it goes in Corruption.
And Hunters.
Well, it's been a long time, but I did 100% Hunters as a wee lad. So when we'll talk about it on that show.
You saw the secret ending of that one.
I did, and I don't remember it, but I did. And I do know it was because it was that when you signed up for Nintendo Power, you could get a free strategy guide, and I chose Prime Hunters, and then I used that to 100% the game. It's fun. So I have a soft spot for Hunters, for sure.
What's this game's legacy?
Multiplayer?
Multiplayer?
Yeah.
Is that what you were going to talk about?
I just wanted to mention it at least. We both didn't play it.
Okay.
Your version obviously didn't have it.
No.
And I played it as a kid. It's just from that time. I just want to make sure it at least gets the nod. It's that time when every game had a multiplayer mode.
And that was followed up on in Hunters. Like that game has a multiplayer component.
And that's where we will talk about it more because that is vital to my experience with that game. I actually kind of want us to maybe try and play on a fan server just to like get a taste of it. But that seed is planted here, and we'll talk about it later, but it's whatever. The legacy of Metroid Prime 2, Echoes. Echoes has a vibe. It's a moody game, but it's too chunked up. It's not smooth. It's not this smooth experience. You keep getting little hitches along the way, and Retro tried to do something new with it. They didn't want to just copy paste type sequel. They wanted to push and innovate in some way. And some of that stuff was cool and stuck around, but other things were burdens in the game design. And some things they didn't shake up enough, like end of game quest. They actually like shook it in the wrong direction and made it even more of a pace killer. So it's just this game that's stuck in this space of really cool ideas, but frustrating roadblock kind of innovation and design. And it's aggressive. The game beats you down constantly. And it not in the what I imagine is like the satisfying Dark Souls-y way. Sometimes it's just like we're making this hard because we're making this hard. And I think it kind of taints this game's legacy overall. And I'm very curious to how it will be received when a remastered version is finally put out that has been so long rumored. But I don't think the rosy glasses of Metacritic will hold up.
Yeah, for me, I think this one is a lot. Echoes a lot of what you said. Very frustrating. Again, I think just hardcore is the best way to put this. This is a Metroidvania fans Metroidvania game. Like if you really want to challenge yourself and you really want to see if you like the big pillars of what this genre has to throw at you, play Metroid Prime 2 Echoes, because it is all of those things but done in a way that I think is too much. I get what they were going for again with a lot of this game. Like I said, the idea on paper of having a light and dark world that mirrors kind of one another. Cool idea. Very cool idea. It's just the execution on those things, having certain entry and exit points. I think if you could, like if traversing into the light and dark world like hinged on an item or something that you could activate on the spot, like something like that would have been really cool. But that opens up all sorts of issues. I also understand that this game was limited by the tech of the time, so something like that was almost certainly not feasible. Like I'm thinking of like Alan Wake 2 actually really does that in a great way, where you can like on the dime like change the environment and what's around you by like switching your lamp. I think that's a really cool mechanic, and I would have liked to have seen something like that here with the light and dark world stuff. Instead, yeah, this game is just doesn't have the same level of satisfaction. I think its legacy is like hard to talk about, because I feel like the first Prime game kind of stands on its own, and I feel like that game has a legacy of its own because it was the first to really adapt the style of these games into 3D. And then I feel like 2 and 3 kind of get thrown together, and everybody just refers to them all as the Prime Trilogy. And so I don't feel like there's too much discussion about this game in particular in hindsight. Maybe I am completely wrong about that, but I just see so many people talking, about, oh, all 3 Metroid Prime games, those are great, we need more of those. But this game specifically never gets really talked about too much. If anything, I feel like maybe this game's biggest legacy point, or the biggest thing to glean from it or take away, is that it's the introduction of Dark Samus, which has kind of become a larger character over the years. Obviously, it's been in all sorts of different stuff in these 2 Prime games, but then representation in Smash and that sort of stuff. And I know that's how the larger Nintendo base is familiar with the character. But Dark Samus stems from this, and so that's probably its biggest legacy point in that regard, and the thing that this game is perhaps the most memorable for.
Well, I think that does it for this episode of Chapter Select. Thank you all so much for listening to us bounce between light and dark, positive and negative opinions. It was a lot of fun. If you would like to find Logan's work, you can go check out comicbook.com. If you'd like to find my work, you could go over to maxfrequency.net and check everything out over there. But thank you all so much for listening, and until next time, adios.